Creative Mind, Exploring the Art of Thinking by Forrest Kinney. Pointing Positive. This adventure in thinking began many years ago with this sign. I was in a strange city, driving in heavy traffic, lost and overwhelmed. I came to an intersection, saw this sign, and turned right, which was wrong. I nearly ran into a truck, which made the experience quite memorable. Obviously, in my distracted state of mind, I didn't interpret this sign correctly. I knew what it meant, but in that moment I didn't, and I nearly paid dearly for my cognitive error. So what was going on in my head? Let me explain it this way. There's an old joke. Don't think of a pink elephant. This makes a point. You have to think of a pink elephant in order to then not think of it. This is how much of our thinking works. We have to affirm something and make it present in our minds in order to then negate it. We have to say what it is we don't want. And so that's why we have signs like this. No cell phones in the library, no idling, no skateboarding in the parking lot, and so on. These signs show us what we aren't supposed to do. Though the picture of an idling car is crossed out, the picture's still there in our minds, just as the picture of a pink elephant stays in our minds whenever we're thinking about not thinking about one. But the real problem here is that we're not thinking about what we want to be thinking about. In this case, let's say I said, don't think of a pink elephant because a friend was thinking about buying it for a sick child we both know. I said, instead, think of a teddy bear because the child loves bears and would be comforted by its company. Well, now my friend knows what to do. So now, without even trying, the thought of the pink elephant goes away. Instead of thinking about not thinking about a pink elephant, my friend is now thinking about buying a teddy bear. So, okay, back to this sign. The problem with this sign is the same issue. When I was in traffic, I was stressed out, not capable of much thinking, just able to react to a directive. I looked at this sign and saw the first layer of meaning, turn right. I missed the second layer, no, don't turn right. And I missed the third layer. You are in a situation where you can only turn left or right, and since you can't turn right, this means you have to turn left. Without processing all this, I turned right, and that's when this happened. It isn't just me who recognizes that there's something wrong with this kind of sign, this kind of directive. When I took a skydiving course years ago, we were told, as we descended over the fields, that there's going to be some dangerous power lines there. The instructor said, whatever you do, keep your eyes on the target where you're going to land. If you start looking at the power lines, what happens is that you will unconsciously steer your parachute toward them, and you may die. So keep your eyes on the target. The instructor told us what to do. He didn't merely tell us not to look at the power lines. This is like me telling my friend to get a teddy bear. Then he didn't have to think about not thinking about pink elephants. When I went river rafting recently, our guide said, if the raft should overturn and you're in the water, look at me. I will point and show you the way to swim out of trouble. I will always point in the direction you're to go, and I will never point in the direction you're not to go under any circumstances. You need me to do what is called pointing positive. I realize that this is the same idea as in skydiving. It's showing people which way to go, not telling them where not to go. I learned the same principle when studying how to teach yoga. My instructor emphasized again and again, speak in command language and clearly tell your students what to do, not what you don't want them to do. Say, straighten your right arm instead of, don't have a crooked arm. Give positive directions because people are in strange positions and they don't have the ability to think in the usual ways. When giving directions, it's not enough to say, don't go west. We need to say what direction to go. Go northeast. So now it's more clear why I had that close encounter with that truck. I didn't have time to think, and I was responding to the directive I saw in front of me, turn right. So I now believe that what we need are signs that follow the principle understood in skydiving, yoga, and river rafting, the principle of pointing positive. Why can't we have a sign that says left only? Perhaps because it's in English, though that's widely known. Or why not have a sign in a different color, such as blue? Or, instead of a red circle with a diagonal that tells us what not to do, how about a green circle without a diagonal line that shows us what to do? All this would be much more effective and safer. So let's take this principle further. Many people face a daily battle with potato chips and other foods they know they shouldn't eat. No, I shouldn't eat these chips. The mind is thinking of chips a lot in order to try not to think of chips. No, I shouldn't be overweight. The mind thinks a lot about being overweight in order to try to be thin. What is missing here is the positive pointing. A person in this situation needs a sense of what to do, not merely what not to do. A direction to turn, not to not turn. My favorite example of this is of a woman who after work each night would sit in front of the TV and try not to eat chips and other fattening foods. She admitted later she was lonely and was trying to fill an empty heart. A counselor asked her what it is she dreamed of doing in the evenings instead, and her answer was immediate. Dance, particularly partner dancing, specifically tango. The counselor urged her to take classes, but she resisted because she was overweight. But in the end, she agreed to do it, and then something unexpected happened. She started spending her evenings dancing, not watching TV, and the pounds were danced away along with her loneliness. She enjoyed how her lighter body moved with more ease on the dance floor. So now she was pointing positive, going in the direction she desired, so she no longer thought about chips or of eating them. Instead of trying not to eat chips, she simply did what she wanted to do. Alcoholism runs in my family, so I've seen up close how it devastates lives. I have seen many people struggle, go in and out of treatment, try to say no to alcohol, try to not do it. In my case, I discovered what the dancing woman discovered. If I made music at my dear piano and wrote books, I savored a clear, alert state of mind, and so I lost the desire to overuse alcohol. When I was pointing positive, following my bliss, going in the direction I wanted to go, I didn't even have to try to say no to a direction that I didn't want to go. I have met many other people in my life who have experienced the same sort of thing. Though the issues I'm speaking of here are much more complex than I'm portraying, I'm trying to point out the essential ingredient often missed in the discussion of addiction. It's not enough to give up a bad habit, to not go in the wrong direction. One must have a better direction in which to go. The principle of pointing positive has countless everyday applications, especially when educating or communicating. For example, when I'm teaching someone to play a piece of music, instead of saying, "Don't play F natural," I say, "Play F sharp." I'm pointing positive instead of planting the wrong idea in the student's mind. Or I help the student discover that the note ought to be F sharp through asking a series of questions, a technique I explore in a future video. When communicating with a child or perhaps a spouse, instead of saying loudly, "Don't shout at me," we could point positive and say quietly, "Whisper." When communicating our needs, instead of describing what we don't want, we can describe the beauty and value of what we do want. Now, pointing positive is not the same as positive thinking. Positive thinking can be useful, but it can also be quite dangerous. Imagine someone is heading right toward the power line, so he or she begins to practice positive thinking. I'm heading toward the target. I'm heading toward the target. Well, no, I would say to this person, you are not. You are actually heading right into those power lines, and merely thinking about the target won't work. You have to actually look at the target rather than the power lines, and then you have to head toward that target. Positive thinking can deny reality, while pointing positive is all about being clear about where we want to go and going there. One final point. We've been exploring the value of pointing positive, but I'm not saying no to saying no. There are times when it's necessary to negate things rather than affirm them. For example, when we're confused and don't know what we want, then it's often necessary to go through a process of saying, no, I don't want this, or no, I don't want that. Or when we don't know which way to go, we often have to negate one way and then another to find our path. So when we're not clear about the kind of house we want, we have to negate this one and that one and that one, and then we become more clear about what it is we really want. Then the process of negation is useful because it helps us realize, this is the wrong direction, and we're better able to find the right one. Thomas Edison is famous for doing 10,000 experiments when attempting to find the right material for an invention. But with each thing he tried, he got closer to finding what he wanted. He famously said this, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." So I hope this video has given you an understanding of the value of positive pointing and the need for more of it in our lives. We all want to be heading in a certain direction, and it is not enough to merely not go in the wrong direction. We can spend a lifetime pushing away the darkness, the bad behaviors, the addictions, saying, I shouldn't step into those shadows or those or those. Or we can point our lives in the direction of the light. We can find the path that we love doing, that we can't wait to do, and then the negative behaviors are seen as drains of energy, and they just drop away. Once we step into the light, the darkness disappears. So on your journey through life, I hope you see less signs like this and more signs like this.